Hello, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you may be. Sorry to cut off everyone's chair dancing there, but I figured it was time to get started. I'm Steve Nathans Kelly, Editor-in-Chief, Stream Media and Chair of Stream Media Connect. It's my pleasure to welcome you all back to the second session of the day at Stream Media Connect. This session is Transcoding H.264, HEVC, and AV1 at scale, brought to you by Norsk. And before we get started, just a few housekeeping notes. As always, the first person to correctly identify the artist and the track you just heard as we were coming in will win an Amazon gift card for $50 at the end of the session, but you must be present to win. Um, Chat amongst yourselves in the chat. The chat is open, but place questions in the Q&A for the panel, and we'll get to as many as we can at the end of the session. Sessions from all 3 days of Stream Media Connect are already appearing on the Stream Media YouTube channel. Link is in the chat. And we will be live and in person October 6th to 8th in Santa Monica for Streaming Media 2025 with our incomparable conference chair, Andy Beach, who you will see in just a moment. The full program is live now, and you can read all about it and register by following the links that Bill's putting in the chat. He's also going to put in a link for the call for speakers. So if you want to speak at Streaming Media 2025, the program is fairly well set now, but we're still looking for lots of speakers. And so let us know your area of expertise and what you'd like to talk about, and we'll see if we can get you into the program. And without further ado, I would like to welcome to the stage Andy Beach.
Hey, Steve, good to see you again.
Good to see you. Take it away.
Excellent. Well, thanks for getting us all teed up. I hope everybody's ready to talk about transcoding. I'm going to start by bringing on our first panelist, Hassene.
Hello, hello.
Hey, welcome to the show. Maybe you could start by just introducing yourself, give us your name, your role, and I'm going to ask everybody what their first codec they remember playing around with was.
So my name is Hassene Tmar. I am a technical program manager at Meta, supporting the video infrastructure team, or now called the Media Foundations team. The first codec I played with was HEVC. I was in college doing my final year project, and I found a little inefficiency in the deblocking filter, loop filter of HEVC. I made a contribution to the standard. Unfortunately, it was too
Nice.
for that. But yeah, and then AVC and even some MPEG too at the days.
Love it. Let's bring on Raja next.
Very good
Raja,
morning to all.
yeah,
A
great to
very good
meet
morning
you.
to all.
What your title, and I know you're a business person, but you can just tell us your favorite codec as part of that.
H.264. I am Raja. I am part of Zoho R&D division, and my primary responsibility is to accelerate video and AI workloads at the lowest TCO possible. So, with that, in that context, we have started working on H.264 and AV1 for the time being.
Got it. By the way, Raja, you're tiny bit low. See if you can maybe bump your mic up just a bit at whenever we talk to you. Steve, I'm
Sure.
going to bring you on now. Steve, welcome. I'm sure you've got a favorite codec out there. I can't wait to hear about it and what all you're doing at Norsk.
Cool. Yeah, hi, I'm Steve Strong, CTO at Norsk. I wouldn't call it my favorite codec, but first codec was probably Windows Media Video, I'm thinking, back in the day.
That is a classic one. You are starting to show your age, like I feel like
Yeah,
I
tell me
show my
about it.
age. Hassene made me feel very young when he said HEVC
Yeah,
was
first, yes.
the first. I go back to the Road Pizza days. That was the first time I was playing around. Apple Video was sort of my starting place with all of this mess, and it's only gone it's only gone downhill from there, I think. So I thought I know we're going to be talking about both VOD and live, but I wanted to talk about a little bit about the live choices because we're seeing such a proliferation of live content online. So maybe Steve, I will start with you. What codecs are you currently sort of looking at and thinking about for live? What's driving some of those choices? And is there differences in how you think about the architectures when you're looking at the different codecs that we're primarily thinking about here, AV1, HEVC, and 264?
Sure. So Norsk is purely live. So once you get onto the sort of on-demand processing, I can bow out after on that one, but on live, I probably have to answer. Um, Pretty much all of our customers today are H.264 still. That is still the vast majority of everything that everyone's doing. Much as a techie, I'd love to have a good reason to throw VBC and some of the new fancy AI codecs and stuff like that into Norsk. The reality is that's not what people want.
Sure.
Once you get into the distribution at scale, they want common denominator. They want it to play on everyone's playback device. So H.264 is by far and away the predominant codec. We've had a bit of HEVC live, but even that, not that much. It's still primarily H.264. In terms of what we're using, it's a mix of software and hardware. Depends a lot on what the customer wants to do. So Norsk tries to be relatively agnostic in its choices and leave those choices up to the customer, because everybody's got different priorities in terms of cost, quality, latency, all that sort of stuff. So we try to give options. So we range from software through to a number of hardware codecs, the standard X264, X265, NVIDIA, NetInt, AMD, etc.
Got it. Thank you so much. Sounds incredibly flexible. Raja, I'll come to you next on the Zoho side. When you're thinking about live in particular, but if on demand is more appropriate, what's driving the choices in the codecs that you're selecting?
Oh, okay, there are two use cases for us. One is a preview engine. So we have a product called WorkDrive where our customers upload bigger size video files. Let's say some video files are of size 3 GB. So in order to generate preview engine, so our primary considerations are energy density and latency for preview engines. So we use ASICs for generating the HLS based preview for our customers. Fundamentally, we serve B2B segment, and for the live calls like Zoom, we have some products like Meeting and Click, which is a chat based products. For those, we use VP9 because it is much optimized in a WebRTC context. There we use the software encoding. So these are all the two codecs that we are focusing right now, and we are now experimenting with the AV1.
Got it. And what direction are those experimentations taking?
So we also work on video analytics, where we wanted to actually do a lot of analytics on the CCTV side. So we primarily work on connecting few more CCTV videos on a single frame, because most of the AI takes a resolution of 200 cross 200. So in a 1K resolution, we can actually pack 4 CCTV videos and then make sure it is actually compressed well enough using AV1, and we can stream it to our platform and we do a video analytics there. So that's the experimentation part that we are working on.
Got it. Fascinating stuff. Hassene, I mean, at Meta, I'm imagining there's a lot of AV1 going on, but I know you guys are a multi-codec shop. So what sort of drives both for VOD and live for you? Because I know you think a little more on the VOD side, but what drives some of the choices around how you support these?
Yeah, so at Meta, we currently support a mix of AV1, VP9, and AVC. This year, the exciting piece of news is that AV1 has now surpassed the 50% bar for all of our, or most of our VOD delivery. And that is very exciting. And AV1 came in initially as a quality boosting codec. It allowed us to increase the quality, especially on the Reels product. Then later on, we kind of veered into tuning towards egress efficiency or bitrate reduction, especially the users that are not as fortunate as sometimes we are in the US when we get very high bandwidth. Users with very little bandwidth pretty much cannot see video. So AV1 would make the difference, for example, between a video and no video
Right.
in that case. And so we utilize a variety of implementations between hardware and software. And then there are, even in VOD, there are latency constraints in there. So if I'm uploading my video to Facebook to my Facebook feed, I need to see it. I need to see it right away. My mom needs to see it right away. And so that kind of latency is what we care about. And then we can go into details a little later on that.
Excellent. I'm going to stay with you for a second because I actually am curious around the next question is around sort of the scale side of things. So you mentioned outbound being an area where you were trying to really optimize to get that quality out there quicker for people to be able to see it. What kind of scale is Meta handling on both inbound and outbound in rough numbers? I know sometimes you can't speak in in explicit numbers around this.
Yeah, indeed. So, I mean, the rough answer is a few billion videos a day.
Is that just a couple billion? That's it?
Exactly. So I happen to be one of the, fortunate folks to support an amazing team that handles a few billion videos of transcoding every single day. We build a very, hopefully, robust system to allow us to handle that. Now, we do transcoding both on the device side and on the server side. And then, of course, on the device side, it's even more challenging. On the server side, we can do whatever we want. We can, spend accordingly. On the device side is where we don't really have control over the transcoders on the device. So we try to use the the best possible transcoder on the device, whether it's hardware, sometimes software, if not available for
Is that
hardware.
inbound or outbound transcoding? Inbound.
Inbound. So, I mean, we have two cases there, right? So there's the peer-to-peer messaging, which is the WhatsApp kind of messaging case that does not go through the server, and so the transcoding there goes straight to the other end of the users. And then the inbound into the server, we also use the transcoding on the device, of course, to make that trip cheaper for the video to come into the server. And we try to use the best possible codec available on the device to maintain the highest quality in that case.
I'm glad you mentioned WhatsApp because I guess I'm sure I remember hearing this in years past, but it's good to point out that within Meta, you support the overall video stack, meaning this is not just Facebook, it's not just WhatsApp or Instagram, it's sort of across all video properties that Meta is involved with that you're responsible for. So hence just the wide scale and the big numbers.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, the big numbers also are from our VOD, Instagram and Facebook. Usually they
Sure.
hold the biggest numbers when it comes to VOD distribution as well. But yes, our team kind of now handles the whole spectrum of things, and then we support video across all of Meta family of apps.
Got it. Steve, talk to us a little bit about scale. What sort of typical scale is Norsk handling? I'm assuming it's not in the billions yet, but
Yeah, I was going to
I'm
say
optimistic, man. It's coming.
doing the scale question straight off the Meta is a bit harsh because there's only a handful of companies in the world that are going to give similar answers. So no, we're not on that scale. And we're also live, so that puts it into a slightly different territory anyway. We're doing hundreds of thousands of live events a year. Probably our biggest single customer is running at 1,000 or so concurrent at certain points of the year when they've got peak demand going on. And then we will be scaling that across a mix of hybrid, on-prem and cloud systems. So quite a lot of customers are running hybrid systems where they have fixed capacity that can cover sort of 80% of their load on-prem with fixed cost. And then they'll expand into the cloud, which North will do for them. But when they need to spike above what their local stuff can do.
Are the events that you're running typically a fairly geographically localized? Is it broadly, just global at scale? What's the scale you have to think about and what are the changes you have to think about in deploying for different scenarios for these customers?
So it's a mix. Again, it varies from customer to customer. The ones that are the mix of on-prem and cloud tend to be country-based, which makes that relatively easy. And obviously, delivery isn't done through Norsk. Norsk will deliver out to the CDN. So final delivery to end users is out through the CDN. So that's down to the customer's CDN choice. We have a couple of customers where ingest is quite important. So we will know geographically where the event is based, and then we can spin up cloud encoders in region close to that event so that we try and get good IP from the event itself into the cloud encoders before we're on to sort of real internet at the back end to then deliver.
Got it. Very good. Thank you. Raja, same for you now. It sounded like you had some more industrial scenarios around security cameras, multicams, and others. So I would imagine the scale on the outbound side might be different for Zoho here. But what are some of the scaling problems? It sounded like you might have an ingest scale issue that was critical for some of your customers. But feel free to correct me.
We have three products basically. One is the work drive, which is similar to Google Drive, where our customers upload lots of data. So basically, those videos are of tens of thousands in a day, but of bigger size. Let's say 1 GB to 3 GB or 5 GB file sizes, because it's a long video recording sessions that they are uploading. So for that, we use we use ASICs for generating the previews for those, because when we actually deployed software based, it actually took 4 servers for us to give the better performance or the expected performance. Now we use ASICs for quickly generating all the previews for those larger file sizes. And the second product is with respect to meeting and click, where we have a live, and for that we actually support for 32 users per call. And in webinar like products, we actually support 500 concurrent users. So that's more of outbound. In terms of click and meeting software, we have maximum of 32 as of now we support.
Got it. And when you're thinking about sort of that scale across all of these different products, are you leveraging different transcode schemes for it so that you have a different mix of latency for the drive-based pieces and the live versus sort of cost and energy thoughts for something that might be a lower priority encode?
Right now, we focus only on two codecs. One for the preview engine, it is H.264, because of broader compatibility with the legacy and proven in CDN environments. With respect to live calls, we focus only on the VP9. And for all the other experimentation purposes, we use AV1 as of now. But we may take another 6 months to roll out any other new codec for our customers.
Got it. Very good. Hassene, I wanted to ask you sort of a similar question around, obviously, I think at the scale you're talking about, you've got a lot of different factors you're thinking about for cloud deployments, whether you choose to use a pure cloud deployment, whether there's an ASIC involved or some other piece. What are the different sort of levers? What are the different kinds of transcoding schemes you're using? And then what are the different factors? I had sort of called out legacy and cost as two, latency and cost, but I'm sure there's others that you have to think about for all the different types of scenarios you're delivering for.
Yeah. So I'm gonna guide you through a little bit of the journey of a video at Meta. So let's say I take my phone, I upload a video. Now that video needs to have some kind of transcoding. It needs to be done as soon as possible. It needs to be available for my family, my friends, even if I send it over Messenger. That's basically a bit of a server transcoder in there. And so for that, we use the Meta Scalable Video Processor, which is an ASIC video processor that was developed and deployed at Meta and within Meta. And for that, we support both VP9 and AVC at this point. primarily VP9. AVC is again for legacy support. That gives us the the lowest possible latency to generate those encodes and a good enough quality with VP9. Now, if my video becomes viral and becomes very popular, that means I'm going to send it to a lot of people. And then we care about the cost of that trip, and we need to reduce the bitrate further. So we go into something called the premium encoding, where we now utilize both hardware and software. So for hardware, we do we apply basically an encoding recipe called convex Hall encoding. So we use hardware in the initial phase to identify the best possible points to encode. And then we use software and in both VP9 and AVC, in this case, AV1, VP9 and AV1. In this case, AV1 has taken on that VP9 Pi, mostly because of improved capabilities today. And we re-encode in software using the open source SVT AV1 encoder. We re-encode those points for the best possible compression efficiency, of course, making sure that the compute budget is not out of bound. So that's a bit of the kind of layered approach. For live, we do mostly AVC right now and still in software. For video calling on devices, we use a mix of software, hardware, depending on what's available and what's better. And but that's mostly on device. And then for end-to-end sharing, again, it's software or hardware based on what's available and what's the best compression efficiency.
I'd love to see a video of a few seconds in the life of a video at Meta as it walks through that process. That would be a fun roadmap to step through. Steve, as you think about for live the different trade-offs that you have, I wanted to throw out also sustainability, because I know Norsk has been a strong proponent in greening of streaming and the elements that go in there. So that, in addition to the other trade-offs around latency and other you're doing, how does that impact the architecture and the deployments you're doing?
Yeah, so there's a bunch of things going on. Probably the single biggest thing that customers are looking for when they're going through all the various choices, you've got your quality, price, energy, etc. I suspect the single biggest thing that ends up being a deciding factor is density. It's how much you can cram onto a single machine, both for on-prem kit. Obviously, they want to sweat that asset as much as they possibly can. So very interested in density on-prem. Cloud is much more interesting. If you take something like an Amazon NVIDIA instance, they're quite expensive per hour. They're not the cheapest boxes in the world. If you can have that fully loaded, well, that's great. You're probably doing fine. If you're event-based and you fully load it and then half of your events stop, and now you've got a machine that's half loaded that you're paying big money for, that's probably not so interesting. So you get a slight challenge on the cloud in terms of making sure that things stay fully utilized. So quite a lot of our cloud customers actually run pure CPU for that purpose, because it means they can load each machine to the top of that instance, and then as soon as the event's over, they can turn it off, so that they're saving their money. That I think will change with the new ASIC-based encoders that are coming out on the cloud. So things like NetInt on the Akamai cloud. The pricing is much more aggressive than the NVIDIA, I suspect, because the demand for NVIDIA with all the AI processing is so high they can charge top dollar for that. And yeah, so we did a lot of work with greening and streaming. We founded that organization, Dom in particular, because we wanted the industry as a whole to take the problem seriously and make sure people were measuring and make sure people had science behind it, and it wasn't just greenwashing and making up numbers that made no sense. The reality is, I suspect a good number of our customers like the idea. How many of them actually made a purchasing decision based purely on the green standards of the codec or so on? Almost none, I would say. Almost none. Density is almost always the biggest one. And where you can get that great density at low power, that's great. If the GPU was burning a kilowatt, I suspect they'd still buy it because the density would win. Cost comes to it in the end.
Well, I'll disagree only mildly and give you guys more credit because I think that sustainability is a hard question in live, in particular to think about, and the fact that you're getting so much metrics out there and making us think about accountability for it is a great starting place. You can never
100%.
you
And
can never fix it.
that's really where we started with greening and streaming, was this
Yeah,
conversation
and
needed to start.
I
Where
applaud
it
that.
goes. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, of course, it makes absolute sense that cost is still a driving factor, but I think being able to look at those numbers alongside of it gives you the ability, or at least gives the customer the ability to plan and think about what the overall implications are for
Yeah.
that footprint long term. I'm gonna switch gears, Raja. I wanna come back to you and talk a little bit about quality trade-offs. In the workflows that you're doing, does the quality become a big impact? In other words, is it okay to let people wait a couple of extra seconds for the a smaller, higher quality version of those files going into the drives? What are the balances? What are the give and takes that you have to think about when you're optimizing? Oh,
In
I think you're on
B2B,
mute. There you go.
yeah. So in
You're back.
B2B use cases, yeah. Thank you, Andy. So in B2B use cases,
I'm
most
sorry
of
to
the time,
interrupt, Roger. Your volume's still way too low. Sorry.
okay. Okay. Uh, in B2B use cases, is it better, Steve?
A little
In
better.
B2B use, yeah, in B2B use cases, most of the time, the our customers upload business videos, so that may not require sub-second latency or preview or the performance. So Zoho is one among the lowest TCO providers within acceptable performance limits or range. So in that context, we use with respect to the quality, customers are okay to wait 2 seconds for the preview to get generated with the acceptable quality. In some cases where the customers have uploaded the fast moving videos with lower bit rates because the source itself is not of good quality, in that case we actually switch to the software encoding capability in CPU than ASIC, because there in high value sessions where the quality is of most important than the throughput, we actually switch to software, else we switch to hardware. So that's a hybrid deployment that we do across our DCs. So we have more than 13 DCs across the globe. In some of the POPs, we have deployed the software based because the customer count is very less in those areas where in that cases we usually we adapt to the software transcoding.
Got it. Very good. Thank you. Hassene, before I ask you about sort of the quality trade-offs, Beth in the audience had asked what the name of the hardware for viral encoding you had mentioned when you were chatting before. Was there some particular either software or hardware you mentioned in the viral encodes?
Yeah, so
Uh,
use meta scalable MSVP, so meta scalable video processor. We already have a blog on that. That's our hardware encoder that the basic encodes go through and the initial set of convex hull. And for software, we use the open source SVT AV1 for AV1 encoder, which is an open source project.
Okay, got it. Thanks for that. Now, on quality trade-offs, sort of as you're thinking about it, obviously, I mean, I don't think there's a scenario at Meta where folks are really paying for the video as a service the way that they are with Zoho as part of the overall enterprise piece. It's just part of the delivery they're getting. It's part of the overall experience. So what are some of the quality trade-offs you have to think about in that consumer environment?
Right. I mean, we like our mission is to give the best quality to our users, wherever they are, whoever they are, ideally. But in this case, our actually when we decided to go with a hardware encode, um, we didn't go for the hardware encode for the sake of density. I mean, it was definitely something that we considered, but we look at two things. We look at high quality, and we also look at the cycle cost or the power cost in this case. Because at Meta, we like our infra pays for power, electricity, pretty much, right? And so that is no matter how efficient our data centers are, that's still a bill that our product team would have to pay the infra team for. And as such, we care about the quality at which cost. And then we published in multiple cases how we think about this, and even putting software and hardware on the same plane to this. So when we think about quality, we also say, okay, how much budget do we have? How efficient can we do that? And then how much quality can we deliver with it? Again, in this, it gets a little complicated at Meta because now we have per region, how much bandwidth do we have for that
Right.
region?
But
And
and
so,
I was actually going to ask that to clarify. You said budget. Do you mean bit budget? Do you mean time budget? Do you mean cash budget? Or do you
right.
mean all of
So
them?
So actually, all of them. So again, initially we generate the very quick encodes, and that has both a cache budget, i.e., a power budget, but we also have a time budget for that. So we have a latency constraint. We want to make sure that our users get a video as as soon as possible. So that comes with a particular company, particular quality, which is pretty high quality. It's equivalent to a libVPX CPU 1 or 2, which is, kind of VOD level high quality. So it's not cheap at all. So we were able to get it within the budget of compute that we have at a high quality within the time frame. But now, as we go into the premium encodes, where we want to boost the quality even further, reduce the bitrate even further, then our users would wait a little bit, and so that wait could be about an hour or so, because they have the basic encodes to already watch. Then we generate these premium encodes, and that's where, again, budget becomes a bit of a problem. We cannot just deliver that for everything. So there's a percentage of video that gets that premium encode, especially the ones that get watched as much. And we tend to increase the quality by two things, using the AV1, which is the higher efficiency codec, but also using a better encoding technology, which is like a two-stage encoding recipe to generate that high quality. Again, we have to live within the very small budget because
Sure.
for every stream that we generate, we're literally paying money for it. And we've actually partnered with the Frederick Alexander University. Today, we've been partnering for the past 3 years to investigate how much energy it actually costs us to send a stream over, including the device decoding, including the TV decoding, if there is any, and how we minimize the energy usage across the whole space. And so we do have that in mind, and we do consider that very, very carefully in at least in transcoding.
That's great. On the you mentioned the most popular things getting a premium encode. Is that a programmatic decision? In other words, is there a rule somewhere based on the number of hits that a video is getting that are playbacks that is causing it to get added to a premium queue or SKU of some sort? Of
Yeah, correct. I'm not gonna go into super details, too many
course.
details in there, but basically, high follower, creators. Let's say, I don't know, Mark Zuckerberg is gonna get premium encodes.
I've heard of him.
So the people that have a lot of followers are gonna get premium encodes kicked off as soon as possible. The people that are that and then that's one side of the story. We do have some technology to kind of figure out whether this video might have a chance of being viral or not to a certain extent. We kind of check the trends and similarities in that case, and so sometimes we kick it off directly. But then, as you mentioned, towards the end, if that video gets encoded, gets played back so many times, and now also in many regions of the world, then we start kicking off the premium encoding to reduce the cost of and latency of delivery.
Got it. Steve, I want to come back to you and start talking about other codecs that are out there. You mentioned VVC at the beginning and not being ready for a live pipeline, but what are the sort of future looking considerations you're thinking about? What are the is there resolution decisions, or is there just new interesting tools in some of the new codecs that we see out there that you'd look to implement? Understand that there's not necessarily customer demand or even technology demand, but it'd be great to just hear a little bit about what your thinking is and what you're waiting for to make the right decisions in the right moment to move it into production.
Sure. So Norsk itself kind of doesn't care at an architectural level. So things like resolution, frame rate, etc. Norsk is agnostic to all of that. What a customer is mainly interested in, quality and bit rate is obviously the thing that everyone's interested in. Which sort of goes slightly at odds with the fact that I said earlier on that pretty much everyone is still H.264. I think people are nervous about starting to deliver video that maybe doesn't play. Quite a lot of our customers have got regulatory requirements. That means people have to be able to watch the stuff, so they're very conservative on that front. So I think things like VVC make a lot of sense. As Jan has been saying on his blog lately, I think the issue there is the playback is a problem there. Now that's not a Norsk problem. We don't do playback side. We're very much on the origination production side. But of course, until you can get playback, then that ripples all the way back to the start. Where we are seeing use of AV1, HEVC much more widely is on ingest, because obviously that's much more restricted.
Sure.
And could I imagine some of the newer codecs coming into play on that side of things? Absolutely, I could see that being something that will happen more aggressively than on the outbound side. Ditto with protocols like meter over quick that we were chatting about earlier. That's a place where I could see stuff like that come in, because you've got a much more constrained environment. In terms of the quality itself, there's a few aspects to it. One is just the visual quality, but actually they're all pretty good if you give them the right settings. None of them are terrible. There's also a lot of things around just production quality of the software. So you need, even when it's software on top of hardware, even when it's an SDK, you need the thing to be reliable. If you're running a live stream, you don't get the chance to do it twice. So if the thing crashes, you've got a problem. So right back in I can go right back to the early days with the Intel Media SDK on top of QuickSync, because it's now been deprecated, so no one will be offended. But it was terrible. It leaked. It leaked memory, it leaked file handles, and every now and then it crashed. So our integration with that ended up having to take it fully out of process, and we ended up with a bunch of smarts such that even if it crashed, we could recover the mid-GOP where we were and carry on with no degradation to the viewer's experience. They couldn't tell. So you could sit there and literally be playing back the video, live video coming in, live video going out, and you could just do a kill on our process that was running the QuickSync process, and you could not tell. It just carried on going. Well, that took
So you
weeks of
turned some
effort. That
bugs
was a
into a
right pain.
feature.
Sort of, yeah. Anyone else using QuickSync probably had those bugs too, because they were driver bugs, and unless they'd done the smarts, they hadn't fixed them, so they were just going to get degradation. But you don't really want to spend your effort engineering around that sort of thing. That's a waste of time. You want to spend your effort putting on function that makes the user experience better.
You had mentioned you talked about Quick and VVC on ingest things like that. I think it's worth calling out how flexible Norsk is on sort of the in and out pieces. I know I got to see some of your demos right after NAB, and you're very flexible on both codecs and protocols you support on the inbound, and even being able to set up some of the redundancies, and I think that becomes critical as part of the user experience. It's a bit outside the transcode pipeline, but it definitely goes back to that viewability piece. Is there anything there you can sort of speak to for us?
Sure. So yeah, the whole idea of Norsk is to have a system that lets you, the customer, build whatever system you want to build, which is why we're agnostic on codec and protocols and formats and so on, because we don't know what you need. So we need to offer as much as you can. And importantly, give you an architecture that means when you want to add a new one, it doesn't change your whole system. So you could have a Norsk setup that's doing, a couple of SRTs in and doing a transcode and some graphic overlays and whatever, and pumping out low latency HLS to Akamai. And then you could have a change request that comes along and says, I now need some RTMP in as well. And that's fine. That's easy to do. That doesn't mean you've got to throw everything away and start again. Stuff that's coming, NDI released in NAB timescale. We are working on 2110 at the moment, so that's coming soon. And that'll work nicely with things like the ASIC-based codecs for on-prem kit. So we can be sat in a production workflow, taking 2110 off of the network, and then doing high density, high quality encodes and pushing out to the cloud systems. That's going to be quite a nice little sync up with that sort of thing going on.
Got it. That'll be exciting to see. What's the time frame for that? Are you going to be showing it at IBC potentially?
Yeah, I would absolutely hope IBC. We're showing 2110. We have customers needing it before then. So yes.
Excellent. Now, Raja, I imagine you don't have enterprise customers asking for 2110's support out there in your world, but what are the enterprise customers looking for as sort of next features, and what are the things that Zoho's having to think about for support there?
So with respect to enterprise customers, we are pretty much satisfied on the performance of H.264 and VP9 as of now. There is no specific request from the customer side, but we are evaluating AV1 with respect to the quality aspects and adaptability with respect to WebRTC context. So as of now, there is no new requirement from the enterprise side with respect to the video calls or the B2B use cases.
Got it. Very good. And I asked Hassene this earlier, but I neglected to ask you, are the enterprise customers curious or asking you questions about power consumption and sustainability in relation to the content, or are they just assuming that you're taking care of that as part of your overall pipeline?
So we serve SMB customers, small and medium business segment customers, and now that we are actually venturing into enterprise customers, some of the SMB customers are very much particular about ESG goals, environmental, social, and governance goals. So from that perspective, we actually give them some kind of data about how much carbon footprint that we save with respect to the video workloads. So yeah, in that perspective, we actually give them the green computing perspective that we save at least 4 servers per transcoding card. So we buy AMD's U30 and MA350 cards. That's a PCI based cards, and we actually put it onto the existing server. By that, we save 4 servers, 3 to 4 servers per product. So that actually saves us a lot of operational cost and energy.
Got it. So there is interest, and I think it's more in at least being able to track the usage right now, or show where some of the benefits are coming in, even if there's not massive changes to the sustainability or carbon footprint that are ongoing right now.
Yes.
Very, very good. Thank you so much. We're going to start taking questions from the audience. So please, I encourage anyone that has a question they've been sitting on, by all means, drop it in. We do already have one from Jose. I think this is geared towards you, Steve. He had asked, you had mentioned 2110 and NDI. Do you have IPMX support in the mix as well?
We haven't explicitly gone through the IPMX docs yet, but we are building all the underlying bits that it depends upon. So that'll be a sort of phase 2. So 2110, that will include uncompressed audio video, that'll include JPEG XS, that'll include AS3 and AS67 audio, which ticks a lot of the IPMX boxes. We have NMOS 04 and 05 support. So again, that's a lot of the IPMX boxes. Once all of that's delivered and those first couple of customers that are already wanting this stuff alive, then we can go back and look at what else we need to tick off on the function lists for what the customers need.
Got it. That Hassene, I assume you're not having to, I mean, particularly in a consumer world, you're not that worried about things like 2110 and other, but I do know that at least on the Facebook side, there are like professional productions that live stream into the scenario. So I would imagine that at least requires some SRT or WebRT support or others. Are there ingest low latency protocols that your system has to support in order to deliver on productions at scale, or are you just taking sort of HLS or RTMP or something else?
We basically our mission to take anything from the users and allow for the best user experience with some basically constrained on what's reasonable, I would say. So I think we pretty much take all of the formats in as much as possible. I'm not really quite up to date with the latest changes in there. I know that there were
I
some
won't hold you to
changes.
it. Don't worry.
Yeah, so there were some changes to live recently, especially. We might have put some restrictions because a lot of what we deal with is when that stream comes in, it's basically and we accept it. It's a promise to our user to make sure that we deliver it properly. And so in some cases we find a lot of issues, and so we started restricting a little bit the space in there. However, I think we've spent quite a bit of time publishing pretty good spec on what we accept, what we don't accept, especially even in the premium case.
Got it. Is there, out of curiosity, I always love making sure documentation's available to the public. Is there a place that they can go look at that documentation just so that they're aware of it? You could put it in the chat if it's a long URL.
I will have to check in with the team that's responsible for that,
Okay.
but I'll happily share it with you afterwards.
Yeah, that would be great. Raja, similarly, I think very early on you had mentioned for some of the live scenarios supporting certain protocols. Are there new protocols like I mean, I don't think you need 2110 support out there for the work that you're doing today, but are there new protocols you're thinking about either on the ingest or outbound side?
Uh, in one of the use cases about this CCTV surveillance,
Mhm.
we are planning to stream in uh, the videos back to the cloud. In that case, because it's a let's say if a store has 40 videos, and how do we compress those 40 cameras, and how do we get those videos and compress it and then send it to the cloud? So we find AV1 actually gives us a better compression efficiency and the transport efficiency in some of those videos, and we are exploring from that perspective because one of our customers or many of our customers are expecting video analytics along with their sales data, correlating with their sales data so that they can improve their business. So from that context, it is not from the live or a streaming context, but it is from the video analytics context.
Got it. I'll actually stay with you for a second because Renard just dropped a question in the chat around the expected video latency for live AV1. So maybe since I'm already on you, I'll start. What is the expected latency there in the scenarios that you're talking about? Is it considered low latency or ultra low? Where does it fit into it timescale wise?
Okay, when we consider AV1, it is with respect to can we reduce the file size to half?
Got
Instead
it.
of transferring the GBs, can we reduce it to 500 MB or 200 MB so that we can quickly upload the files to our cloud?
So you're looking at it more for file size,
Yes.
quality, conversations. Sen, I'll sort of switch to you then and ask in scenarios where you're using AV1 for live, what is the expected latency?
Yeah, unfortunately, we're not there yet.
Okay,
We're because li life is not too much of it doesn't represent a big portion of our watch.
sure.
We are still with AVC in that case, and for Meta in particular, we do have a generous latency budget, so I wouldn't care. But I don't think we are as strict in that space. However, from my previous experiences with live, uh, I think like for a live event, an encoding latency of a sub-second, if we're doing a high quality, has been whatever I would see. So I spent quite a bit of my career tuning for live. Tuning the core encoders for live use cases, and that's usually the case. If we go into the ultra low latency, then we go into the sub 100 millisecond cases. In both cases, the open source project that we use and I personally maintain, so I'm a little biased in there, that will be able to support all of these use cases down to maybe even 20 millisecond nowadays in the low latency, low delay mode.
Got it. Thank you for that. Steve, I'll sort of ask you the same question, but
Yeah,
I'll broaden it a
that one I
bit.
can. That
Yeah.
one I can speak about. We do quite a lot of live, and some of our customers, latency is a big deal. Some of our customers are using Norsk for two-way comms, so literally having chats like this
Yeah.
through it. So it's got to be properly low. And to be honest, all of the codecs are fine, as long as you tune them properly. AV1, H.264, HEVC, you can all be down in the low tens of milliseconds for the encode itself. That's really not a problem at all. If you're running AVC and you go and throw 5B frames in, then well, you're going to be out of luck. That's not going to do good things. But that's your setting. Don't do that. That would be a bad choice for a low latency stream. So yes, as long as you don't use stupid settings on your codec, even up as far as AV1 and HEVC latency, really not that much of a problem. For live, for both AV1 and HEVC, they've pretty much got to be on hardware. Trying to do those in software live, particularly if the resolution goes anything more than tiny, starts requiring rather large numbers of CPUs. We pretty much would only support AV1 and HEVC for live output through hardware support.
Got it. Very good. While we wait for any other questions to come in, I just wanted to sort of open up to the group, and Steve, I'll stay with you and start. What are the next areas? I mean, you've obviously mentioned 2110 for IBC, but looking out beyond sort of the next trade show in the next year, what are the areas you're thinking about for the scale side of the question and thinking about larger deployments? Obviously, you're in the thousands of viewers now with the pieces that are going on, but I know you're planning for bigger deployments and things that are going off. What are you having to think about? And you don't have to get into explicit detail, but just give us a sense of what we need to be thinking about for 2026 and beyond.
Yeah, so our main focus, I think for the straight video in, video out, Norsk is in a really good place. There's a whole bunch of stuff we're adding. There's some exciting stuff in the pipeline, but that isn't going to fundamentally change the core video in, video out proposition from a sort of scale perspective. The bit that's going to happen fairly shortly with Norsk is on our management side. We already have an intelligent manager that can do smart stuff around scaling live events. That's going to become much better packaged to make it much easier for customers to pick up and use. Right now, it's a bit of a process for them to pick up the Norsk Manager and use it. That's going to become a pretty much out of the box experience. And down the road, that's going to include things like we were describing earlier, where if you spin up an NVIDIA instance and you fully load it, and then you have a bunch of events fail, not fail, but finish, such that you've now got a NVIDIA instance that's not loaded, the ability, depending on your workflow, the ability to be able to migrate that running workflow onto a different machine while it's live. That's going to become
more
a thing that
intelligent
will be
orchestration on the back end.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the effort there really is to just keep the end user experience, the viewer experience very high while you're able to scale costs or deployments on the back end.
Exactly. It's to do exactly that. Keep the end user experience high, keep the technical burden on the customer low so that they can focus on their end user experience and their content and all that good stuff. And Norsk can take care of the heavy lifting.
Got it. But I mean, Hassene, this sounds like the world you probably live in the billions of videos that you're thinking about and dealing with. But are there other areas you're having to explore or think about in the scaling part of the pipeline?
Yeah, I mean, because we have challenges across both the server side and the client side, we have to also care about what the client supports
Sure.
and what we can do in there. So today we are greatly focused on expanding the coverage of AV1, and that comes with a careful consideration of what we, you know, what devices do we send AV1 to as compared to VP9. We do utilize software decoding on the device as compared to hardware. How can we make sure the user experience does not go into that space? And like we're working with multiple partners across the ecosystem to make sure that we close the loop on feedback on that. So that's a great level of challenge. Of course, we are continuing to work and support future video codecs and research in that area, along with research in potentially some AI technologies, machine learning technologies to improve the quality, not so much on the transcoding side, but on the pre-processing, scaling, HDR. All of these are still areas where we can expand, we can do more.
58 minutes before we said the word AI on the panel. I just want to call it out. Hassene, you have to put $5 in the AI swear jar. But great job making it this far without it becoming all about AI. I'm impressed. Raja, I'm going to give you final thoughts here. What are the future scaling pieces on the SMB or enterprise side that Zoho is having to think about?
With respect to videos, we are now started experimenting with the AI inference quality. So we get most of the time visual quality from, but the AI inferencing on those videos give very less confidence scores. So based on the tweaking some of the codec parameters, can we achieve AI inference with a better confidence and better inference, better insights from the video itself? Because most of the videos that we are going to get will be consumed by the machines itself than the people on the other side. So that's where our direction is going, research is going on.
Got it. Gentlemen, thank you so much. I thought this was a great conversation and loved the different perspectives that all of you brought to the discussion. Steve, I'll hand it back over to you.
Yeah. Thanks, Andy. And thanks so much, Steve, Hassene, and Raja. And thanks to Norsk. Once again, this is a fantastic conversation. And we couldn't have done it without Norsk. So thank you. And before we go, we have a gift card winner. So Zeal Sheath was the first person to correctly identify, and I think he did it in about 3 notes. Express Yourself by Charles Wright and the Watts 103rd Street Rhythm Band. So congratulations, Zeal. And so sometime in the next week or so, you should receive an email telling you how you can collect your prize. We'll be back at We'll be back at 1 o'clock for our next session, which is getting to Cloud 9, how to optimize broadcast cloud migration. So I hope we'll see you all for that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.